Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were celebrating Thanksgiving, I hope you enjoyed your holiday and the following Black Friday that many like to participate in. It's always been kind of an odd event, if you ask me. It's where we all forget everything that we learned the day before and we all pack the stores so that we can beat each other up for items at 75% off that next year we can be thankful for. Yep. Black Friday, and here is some footage from this year's Black Friday. It looks like people were being pretty polite, I guess. I guess it could be worse, I suppose. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, there you go. Black Friday. Let's get to some news. From NBC, quote-unquote, news, ex-CIA NSA Director Michael Hayden hospitalized after suffering a stroke. Michael V. Hayden, the former director of both the Central Intelligence Agency and National Security Agency, is receiving intensive medical care after suffering a stroke earlier this week. According to a statement released by George Mason University, which hosts a school of government in his honor, Hayden was at home when he suffered a stroke that led him to be hospitalized. As General Hayden begins the healing process, the family requests that their privacy be respected, read the Friday statement issued on behalf of Hayden's family. The general and his family greatly appreciate the warm wishes and prayers of his friends, colleagues, and supporters. The former CIA and NSA director served as a 4-star general in the United States Air Force and has served under Presidents Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. The CIA's deputy director, Gina Haspel, wished Hayden a speedy recovery via the agency's Twitter page Friday evening. Mike's long career of public service and commitment to national security continued to be an inspiration to all intelligence officers, said the Trump-appointed director, whose nomination Hayden supported. Our thoughts are with Mike, Janine, and their family. Hayden, who has spent his post-service career as a national security analyst for CNN and founder of the Michael V. Hayden Center for Intelligence, Policy, and International Security at George Mason, made headlines in July when he was among the many former intelligence officials who had their security clearances called into question by the Trump White House. We all agree that the president's action regarding John Brennan and the threats of similar action against other former officials had nothing to do with who should and should not hold security clearances, and everything to do with an attempt to stifle free speech, read an August statement signed by Hayden and other ex-intelligence officers in defense of former CIA Director John Brennan after Trump revoked his security clearance. Okay, so this guy Hayden, not a big fan of President Trump. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this very well may be your run-of-the-mill story of an older gentleman who's suffering from a stroke. It's a terrible thing. It happens all the time. I most certainly would not want to wish it upon anyone. I just want to suggest today that I found the timing rather intriguing, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Michael Hayden, former NSA director. And if you'll remember, he was NSA director at the time of 9/11. Now, during the time of 9/11, we suffered a lot of national security glitches and snafus and technical difficulties, yes? And one in particular that I'd like to direct your attention to was this story about these 9/11 hijackers who were at the time living in San Diego. And they were making calls to each other. They were making calls to a safe house. They were making calls to Yemen. And the NSA supposedly intercepted some of these calls. Michael Hayden came out and said, we got them all, except for the fact of this quote-unquote technical difficulty. We were not able to geo-track them. And of course, a lot of reporters called bunk on that. One particularly was this James Bamford, 9/11 whistleblower, and essentially saying, look, if you've got the ability to intercept the call in the first place, it's because you probably have some sort of geo-tracking. But basically, if you got these calls, you know what's up, you had them, but you just couldn't figure out where they were coming from. Something doesn't sift out very well, because the very nature of tracking these calls suggests that you're able to figure out when they come from and where they come from. But that was the story. Now, as the article suggests, Michael Hayden was one of these gentlemen whom Trump had suggested have their security clearance revoked. Now, I'm not so sure that happened to Michael Hayden, but it did happen to John Brennan, his successor. And of course, John Brennan was the man who was CIA station chief in Riyadh and helped expedite the visas of the very gentleman I was just talking about. Now I want to turn you on to this interview from back in May on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah featuring Michael Hayden. And I want to point something out that he says about President Trump. Give it a listen. All right, well, first of all, Mr. Trevor Noah, it's wreak havoc. Wreck is what you did to The Daily Show. But we're talking about Michael Hayden here, and he mentioned it twice. Did you catch it? He said it at the very end, post-truth. He's talking about President Trump and how we're living in this post-truth world. Well, what does he mean by that? Well, it memorized me of something. Let me take you back to June. As a matter of fact, June 7th through 10th, Turin, Italy, the 66th Bilderberg meeting. And let's look at some of these key topics that were up for discussion this year. Number one, populism in Europe, of course, because we're talking about George Soros. Number two, the inequality challenge, something that we're all just really dying to get fixed. The number three, the future of work. Oddly enough, right after that comes artificial intelligence at number four. Number five, the U.S. before midterms. Number six, free trade. Number seven, U.S. world leadership. Number eight, Russia. Number nine, quantum computing. And then number 10, Saudi Arabia and Iran. And right after that at number 11, the post-truth world. Yeah, how about that? And then we've got current events in at number 12. Now, Hayden was, to my knowledge, not a participant in the 2018 Bilderberg meeting, but I immediately latched on to that in thinking about Hayden. This was something that I actually wanted to mention for quite some time, and I figured that today was as good a time as any. So we shall see what happens. Not really sure if he's going to recover from this stroke or whatnot. Like I said, I don't wish any ill will on anybody, but like I said, as we are now getting into this global narrative of national security, we're not just talking about the CIA, we're talking about GCHQ, right? We're talking about Five Eyes. It looks to me like some of our foreign friends are panicking too. And so I just found this a very, very interesting timing for Michael Hayden to be hospitalized. Let's move on. From RT, 35 F-35s, Pentagon deploys a swarm of fighter jets during massive air power drill. In a large-scale air power drill, the Pentagon displayed 35 F-35 supersonic stealth fighter planes on a runway before they jetted into the air with just seconds between takeoffs. A video released by the U.S. Air Force shows the aircraft from the 419th and 388th Fighter Wings lined up in several rows at Hill Air Force Base in Utah. All jets were later sent into the air in rapid succession with just 20 to 40 seconds between each takeoff. And you can see the picture there. The first video is unavailable, although it was available earlier. But we have this from the Twitter of the 388th Fighter Wing, which I'll play for you. And now this is a sped up time lapse. Pew, 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 pew. You're welcome. Sound effects are free. There you go. The drill was designed to demonstrate the readiness and lethality of the U.S. Air Force in deploying swarms of jets against air and ground targets, officials explained. We are ready to fight tonight, Major Caleb Guthman of the 34th Fighter Squadron said. The Pentagon has been brandishing F-35s as the game changer in its air power. At the same time, the aircraft's production history was shrouded in controversy due to its design flaws, exuberant costs, as well as missing several deadlines. Okay, well, those last things are true, but I'd also like to point out that these were the plans that China stole, and they also hacked a lot of these planes. We've had lots of problems, and I'm surprised that RT forgot that little nugget there. But yeah, they stole these plans. This was likely part of those special access programs that Hillary sold off to China, and it resulted in this J-31, which was kind of a rip-off model over there in China. So I just want to rememberize you of that. But if you are out there in Utah and you've got any information on this, please let me know, and I'll try and pass that on. But I found this very interesting, that this is the home of Prosecutor John Huber. We get this large-scale air power drill. And it would seem to me like something like this would be a sight to behold. You would want to invite the public maybe and have them see this great spectacle, right? No, it looks like they just went ahead and did this. Now, I could be wrong, but it seems like a very large air power drill. especially when they're talking about showing off a show of force, and yet there's nobody there to see it. There was no big parade or pomp and circumstance or whatever. So if you are out there in Utah and you've got any information on this, I would greatly appreciate hearing more about this. But there you go. Now, I found a little more information regarding this 388th, also the 34th Flight Squadron. And this was published on the 15th, so it looks like this was done some days ago from Hill Air Force Base, Utah. The 388th Fighter Wing's 34th Fighter Squadron recently returned from a weapons evaluation exercise at Eglin Air Force Base, Florida, where they employed the GBU-49 for the first time in F-35A combat training. The GBU-49 is a laser and GPS-guided bomb that can be used in a variety of conditions against many types of moving or stationary targets. It's really a flexible weapon. It was reliable, accurate, and effective, said Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Johnston. Like any new weapon, what we learned and what we will learn as we continue to train with the GBU-49 will directly impact our tactics and will make the F-35A even more lethal. During the weapons exercise known as Combat Hammer, teams assessed the readiness of Hill's weapons, crews, maintainers, and pilots as they built, loaded, and employed the F-35A's weapons. Combat Hammer validates our tactics, techniques, and procedures and builds the confidence in our airmen that we are ready for our wartime mission, said Johnston. While the pilots have been training to employ the GBU-49 in the F-35A flight simulators at Hill Air Force Base, they learned a lot while flying in this Combat Hammer, said Lieutenant Colonel Michael Albrecht, the 388th Fighter Wing Director of Staff. In a normal hammer, you drop these weapons 100 times in live training and you're validating the process, Albrecht said. This was our first time with this particular weapon. The pilots communicated well and every day shared things from sortie to sortie that refined our tactics. Local training on the Utah test and training range with live and inert GBU-49s will begin soon. Hill Air Force Base is slated to be home to three F-35 fighter squadrons with a total of 78 aircraft by the end of 2019. The active duty 388th FW and Air Force Reserve 419th FW will fly and maintain the jets in a total force partnership, which capitalizes on the strength of both components. Okay, it looks like we're going to have some more hammer practice.
I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Now check this video out. This is from Moscow. Two military helicopters spotted flying over the Kremlin in Moscow sparked bewilderment amongst locals. This is also from RT. Now they're buzzing the Kremlin here, and this of course is a no-fly zone. Looks like they're about ready to do an extraction there, and that's precisely what we see here. One of the copters was also seen carrying a net with 4 armed soldiers as they left the no-fly zone area. Yep, just picking up the kids from school. Moving on, nothing to see here. How about that? This is some great video, although I wish you would turn your camera so we could see the whole thing. No official explanation was given, although later reports suggested it was just well, I guess it was a practice exercise, a routine practice exercise. How about that? Another routine practice exercise.
We talking about practice.
Over here on the ICE Newsroom website from the 20th, Venezuelan billionaire charged, former Venezuelan national treasurer and former owner of Dominican Republic Bank, both plead guilty in money laundering conspiracy involving $1 billion in bribes. Okay, so this guy, his name is Raul Gorin Belisario, and he is from Venezuela. He's also got himself a residence there in Florida. How about that? And he owns this Global Vision News Network, which is basically fake news down there. But he also partnered up with this other guy, the national treasurer, and they own the Banco Paravia Bank in the Dominican Republic. How about that? Okay, so a Venezuelan with connections to Florida, and then we've got this guy here with a connection to a bank in the Dominican Republic that was taking, they were basically running a money laundering scheme there, bribing people millions of dollars so that they could do their own exchange through this bank. And of course, they were making tons of money doing this. But they all had residences in Florida. How about that? Well, it was just like the military was just out there finding a sub in Florida. And those planes were out there. They were doing practice in Florida.
What are we talking about?
I don't know if we're talking about practice, but this Gorin Belisario was not. He was paid millions of dollars in bribes. So this is pretty interesting. We have Venezuela, Dominican Republic right next to Haiti. Haiti with a major human trafficking route going to Florida. We shall see how this turns out, but it looks like fake news from Global Vision is no mo. And finally, I will leave you with this. Thanks to Jamerican on Twitter who sent me this from an Anon on 8chan. Looks like a tweet from Barack Obama on the 21st of November. I am grateful for the next generation of leaders, the young people who are tolerant, creative, idealistic, and doing the work to create the world as it should be, who understand that hope requires action. From the Obama family to yours, happy Thanksgiving. And below that, you see a November 22nd tweet from John Brennan. On this special day, I give thanks to all Americans who honorably serve and protect our country, as well as those who bravely speak out against injustice, lies, prejudice, and sexual assault. I very much look forward to future Thanksgivings when we will come together as one nation. And the Anon points out here that the incorrect capitalizations over here are the C and N, as in C here in the middle in country, and it looks like nation down here at the bottom. Correct caps, OIAT, and then he puts together action here. Brennan has hidden message in new tweet, and of course you can see the keyword over here in the Barack Obama tweet also calling for action. What do you think? Don't know. Do you believe in coincidences? You tell me, Patriots. All right, that's all I got for you today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to those of you who are already doing that. If you are new to my channel, welcome to you. Keep in mind that from time to time, you will be unclicked, unnotified, and unsubscribed, because that's the game that social media likes to play with you. They know that I bring the cake, and they don't want you to have the cake, so they want to keep you and the cake away from each other. But we're going to make cake great again. Makuga. That's right, Patriots. Makuga. All my links are down below, my Gab, my BitChute, my Real.video, which is now Brighteon.com. If you'd like to support my channel, my Patreon link is down below. I've even got my email and a P.O. box down there if you'd like to check that out. All my links are down below. I'm over here on Twitter at IPOT1776. That's at IPOT1776. If you're on Twitter, please join me over here. And of course, that link will be down below too. Okay, Patriots, this is Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay patriotic.